I spent more than 20 years of my life studying the wealthiest, most successful individuals this world has ever produced. I sat across from them. I questioned them for hours. I studied their habits, their setbacks, and the precise moments when their fortunes turned. And after all of that, after thousands of interviews, after decades of careful analysis, I arrived at a conclusion that startled even me. The difference between those who build lasting fortunes and those who struggle until their final breath is not what most people assume. It is not education. It is not inherited advantage. It is not luck or genius or even the willingness to work hard, though all of those things have their place. The real difference, the one that controls everything else, is invisible. It occurs before the first dollar is ever earned. It occurs inside the mind. And here is what troubles me most deeply. Almost nobody prepares their mind before they go out chasing money. They chase first, they scheme, they scramble, they exhaust themselves, and then they wonder why the money never stays, why every gain slips away, why years of effort leave them standing in the same spot. I can tell you exactly why, because I have seen the pattern repeat itself in the lives of thousands of people. Their mind was never made ready to receive wealth, and an unprepared mind will always return itself to poverty, no matter how many chances come its way. Wealth cannot remain where the mind has not made room for it. What I am about to share with you are 9 principles that took me a lifetime to gather and verify. These are not theories. These are not pleasant ideas meant to make you feel good for an afternoon. These are laws. Laws I watched operate with the precision of gravity in the lives of the most accomplished people I ever studied, and laws I watched punish those who ignored them. I must tell you honestly, the final lessons carry a power that the first ones only begin to suggest, so remain with me, because what you hear may permanently alter the way you understand money, success, and your own potential. Let us begin with the principle that governs everything else. You will never earn more than the image you hold of yourself in your own mind. I do not mean this as poetry. I mean it as observable fact. I watched it prove itself hundreds of times in every industry, in every circumstance, in prosperity and in hardship alike. A man would come to me and say, "I want to become wealthy." And I could see immediately, before he spoke another word, that he did not believe it. Not in the place where belief actually matters. He wanted it, certainly. He wished for it. He daydreamed about it. But deep inside his own mind, in that silent chamber where his true convictions lived, he had already decided that wealth belonged to other people. To luckier people, to smarter people, to people who had something he lacked. That hidden verdict was governing his entire life, and he did not even know it. Your subconscious mind is the most powerful servant you possess, but it does not judge what you give it. It does not argue. It does not correct your errors. It simply accepts whatever belief you feed it, through repetition, through emotion, through the quiet thoughts you think when nobody is watching, and it goes to work turning that belief into your physical reality. If the belief is that money comes with difficulty, your mind will arrange your world to confirm it. It will draw your attention to every obstacle. It will blind you to opportunities that sit right in front of your face. And it will cause you to hesitate at the very moments when action was required. All of this happens beneath your awareness, which is precisely what makes it so dangerous. So here is your first task. I want you to do this today, not next week, not when you feel ready. Take a blank sheet of paper and write down in plain language what you truly believe about money. Not what you wish you believed, what you actually believe when you are honest with yourself in the quiet of your own mind. Do you believe that earning money requires struggle and pain? Do you believe that people who accumulate wealth are somehow dishonest? Do you believe that you personally lack some essential quality, intelligence, connections, courage that the wealthy possess? Write it down, then look at what you have written and understand something that will change the course of your life if you let it. Those beliefs are not facts, they are mental habits, and I have never encountered a mental habit that could not be replaced with a better one through repetition and faith. That replacement is the first step in training your mind, but it is only the first step. What comes next is where I have seen most people lose their way entirely. You must reach a decision. I do not mean a preference. I do not mean a casual intention. I mean a burning, irrevocable decision about what you want, stated in terms so specific that there is no room for confusion. I have come to believe that indecision is the single greatest cause of financial failure I have ever observed. It is more destructive than any market collapse, more costly than any bad investment, because the person who has not decided what they want is a ship without a rudder. They drift with every current. They chase whatever appears newest or easiest. They start and stop until years have passed and they find themselves back at the very beginning, exhausted and bewildered. And here is the part that most people never see. They did not fail because they lacked ability. They failed because they refused to choose. I once asked a man what he wanted from his life. He told me he wanted to be successful. I asked him to define what that meant. He could not. I asked how much money he intended to earn. He said, as much as possible. I asked him by when. He shrugged. I asked him what he planned to give in return. He looked at me as though I had asked something unreasonable. That man had been working for over 15 years and had nothing to show for it. Not because the world had denied him, because he had never told the world or himself what he was after. He had been running with great energy in no particular direction, and that is the cruelest form of failure, because the person never realizes why they are losing. When I studied the men and women who built great wealth, I found one trait they shared almost without exception. They had what I call a definite major purpose, a clear, written, specific statement of exactly what they intended to achieve, when they intended to achieve it, and what they were prepared to give in exchange. Because wealth is always an exchange. You do not simply receive it. You offer value, service, knowledge, solutions, and money flows back to meet it. The specificity of your purpose determines the speed of your progress. A sharp target pulls you forward like gravity. A vague wish lets you wander in circles. If you have not written your definite purpose yet, the exact amount, the exact timeline, the exact service you will render, then I must be direct with you. You have not truly begun. You have been circling the starting line. And the difference between circling and crossing is a single act of decision. Write it tonight. Read it every morning and every evening. Hold it in your mind with the intensity of a person who has staked everything on its fulfillment. This discipline alone will place you ahead of nearly everyone you know, because almost nobody does it. They think about it, they intend to do it, they plan to do it soon, and soon becomes the most expensive word in the English language. But here is where the real test begins, and what I am about to describe has destroyed more fortunes in the making than any other single obstacle. There is a period in every worthwhile endeavor, every business, every investment, every personal transformation, when the work has been done, the effort has been genuine, but the results have not yet appeared. The seeds are planted, but nothing is visible. The ground looks exactly the same as it did before you started. I call this the silent season, and I have watched it break strong, capable, intelligent people like dry wood. They interpret the silence as proof that they have failed. They look around and see other people, or so it seems, succeeding faster, earning sooner, getting results that they cannot. And a voice inside them says, "You have been foolish. You have wasted your time. Give up now before you waste more." That voice sounds rational. It sounds responsible. And it is the most dangerous voice you will ever hear because it arrives precisely when you are closest to the thing you have been working toward. I studied a man who spent years working toward a goal with sound planning and genuine effort. After a long stretch without visible progress, he gave up. He was done. He told himself it was the smart decision. And I later confirmed that had he persisted just a short while longer, the very breakthrough he was seeking would have arrived. He was separated from his fortune by inches, not miles, and he could not see it. That story repeated itself so often in my research that I came to regard persistence as perhaps the truest measure of whether a person will succeed or fail. Not their talent, not their plan, not their circumstances, their willingness to continue when every external sign says stop. Nature does not publicize its schedule. The farmer plants and then waits through seasons of apparent nothing. But beneath the soil, the roots are spreading. The foundation is forming. The invisible work is being done. Your financial growth obeys this same law. There will be long periods where you do the right things and see nothing. Those periods are not punishment. They are construction. And your only task during those times is to keep going with full faith that the harvest is approaching. But I want to add something here that most people overlook. The silent season does not only build your fortune. It builds you, it builds the character, the resilience, and the depth of understanding that you will need to manage wealth once it finally arrives. I have seen people come into large sums of money before their minds were prepared, and in nearly every case, the money did not save them. It amplified their weaknesses rather than fulfilling their potential. The silent season is your preparation, not merely for the money, but for the person you must become in order to keep it. And that is a gift, though it rarely feels like one in the moment. Now let me speak about something that has cost more people their fortunes than any depression or panic I have ever witnessed. And it is not what you expect, it is fear. Not the dramatic kind, not the fear of physical danger, the quiet kind, the kind that whispers to you at night when you are considering a bold move, the kind that says, you are not ready, the kind that says, what if you lose everything, the kind that sounds so reasonable, so cautious, so responsible, that most people obey it without ever realizing they have just surrendered their future. I want to be absolutely clear. Every person alive experiences fear. I experienced it. Every wealthy individual I studied experienced it. Fear is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is a feature of the human mind. The question that separates the wealthy from the struggling is never whether fear arrives. It always arrives. The question is what you do when it stands in your doorway. Most people stop. They treat fear as a verdict. I should not do this, rather than as what it actually is, which is a signal that you are approaching the boundary of your current comfort. And everything you want, everything worth having, sits on the other side of that boundary. I want to give you a discipline that I have shared with many people over the years, and I have watched it change lives. When fear rises in you, take a piece of paper and force it into written words, not a vague feeling, specific words. I am afraid that I will invest this money and lose it. I am afraid that people will think I have failed. I am afraid that I do not know enough. Write it down. Look at it. Something remarkable happens when you do this. Fear, which felt enormous and suffocating as a feeling, becomes small and manageable as a sentence on a page. Because fear draws its power from vagueness. It thrives in shadow. The moment you name it, you have already reduced it. Then ask one question. If the very worst happened, if this fear came completely true, would I survive? In almost every case you will ever face, the honest answer is yes. You would recover. You would learn, you would rebuild, and you would do so as a wiser, stronger person than the one sitting here now, frozen by a feeling. Let me tell you what I have observed about fear and regret, because this is something most people only understand when it is too late to matter. At the end of their lives, the people I encountered almost never regretted the things they tried and failed at. They regretted the things they never tried at all, the risks they did not take, the ideas they never pursued, the conversations they avoided, the moments when fear won and they surrendered without a fight. That is the real cost of obeying fear, not failure, but a life haunted by the question, what if I had moved forward? I can tell you something I know to be true from everything I have witnessed. Every fortune I ever studied was built by someone who felt deep fear and acted anyway. There is no other path. Fear is the price of admission to a larger life. Those who refuse to pay it remain exactly where they are. And here is what I find most remarkable. The act of moving through fear does not merely get you to the other side. It changes you. It builds something inside you that no amount of comfortable living ever produces. It builds the quality I call courage. And courage, once developed, compounds like interest. Each time you face a fear and move forward, the next fear becomes smaller. Not because the stakes are lower, but because you are larger. Now I want to share something I regard as one of the most important discoveries of my life's work, and most people misunderstand it completely. There is a difference, a vast consequential difference, between working hard and creating value. Most people were raised on the belief that effort is what produces income. You trade an hour for a wage. You trade more hours for more wages. And within that arrangement, there is always a ceiling, because your hours are finite. You cannot manufacture more of them. But I studied men who created more wealth in a single year than most people produce in a lifetime. They did not possess more hours. They possessed a different understanding of value. The person who solves a problem for one individual at a time will always earn modestly, no matter how hard they work. The person who solves that same problem for thousands through specialized knowledge, through organized planning, through imagination applied to a definite purpose, creates wealth on a scale that hourly labor can never approach. I want you to consider something carefully. What problem can you solve? What knowledge can you acquire that once organized and applied serves not one person but many? What skill can you develop that is so useful, so needed, that people seek it out without you having to chase them? This is what I call the shift from labor to value, and it begins entirely in the mind. You must first believe, truly believe, that your contribution can reach beyond the room you are standing in. You must believe that your knowledge, properly organized, is worth more than your time. Most people never make this shift, not because they are incapable of it, but because no one ever challenged them to think this way. The world trained them to trade hours, and they never questioned the arrangement. I have seen men and women of very modest backgrounds make this shift and completely transform their financial circumstances within a few years. They did not inherit anything. They did not stumble upon some secret. They simply began to ask a different question. Instead of, how do I get paid for today? They asked, how do I build something that creates value whether I am present or not? That one question, pursued with persistence and organized planning, opens a door that hourly labor can never reach. I am telling you now, whatever your current situation, this shift is available to you, and it is the doorway through which every lasting fortune must pass. But there is another principle that operates alongside this one, working silently, continuously, and with devastating consequences for those who ignore it. And I suspect its influence is shaping your financial life at this very moment without your knowledge. You must become the deliberate guardian of your own mind. I cannot say this strongly enough. Your mind is the workshop in which every circumstance of your life is manufactured. Every dollar you possess began as a thought in that workshop. Every opportunity you seized was first recognized by that workshop. And every failure you have experienced was permitted at some level by what that workshop was producing. Now, consider what happens when you leave that workshop unguarded, when you allow anyone, friends, family, strangers, the general atmosphere of fear and negativity that surrounds most people, to walk in and rearrange your thinking. I have seen it happen more times than I can count. A man develops a burning desire for a better life. He creates a plan. He begins to move. And then someone close to him, someone he trusts, says with absolute confidence, that will never work. People like us do not achieve things like that. And because those words come from someone familiar, someone whose opinion feels trustworthy, they bypass every defense and plant themselves directly in the subconscious mind. Within weeks, that man no longer remembers where the doubt came from. He believes it is his own thought, his own realistic assessment, and his dream dies quietly, killed not by failure, but by an opinion he absorbed without questioning. I want you to perform an honest inventory. Whose voices do you hear most frequently? What do those voices believe about wealth, about ambition, about what is achievable? If those voices carry doubt and limitation, you must understand that they are shaping your subconscious mind through repetition, which is the most powerful force in mental programming. You do not need to cut these people from your life, but you must stop granting their beliefs equal authority over your future. Before you accept anyone's opinion about what is possible for you, ask yourself, has this person achieved the kind of life I am building? If the answer is no, their opinion is not counsel, it is noise. And noise, repeated often enough, can drown out the strongest purpose ever written. Choose what you read, choose what you hear, choose whose thinking you allow to influence your own. Build around yourself an environment that feeds your purpose rather than starving it. I recommend this as a daily practice. Each morning before you engage with the world, spend time with ideas that elevate your thinking. A page from a book that challenges you. A review of your definite purpose. A deliberate thought about the person you are becoming. Do this before you allow anyone else's thoughts into your mind for the day. That simple order, your purpose first, the world second, creates a shield that is remarkably powerful. This is not selfishness. This is the highest form of self-discipline. And without it, every other principle I have shared will be undermined before it has the chance to take hold. The next lesson follows directly from this one, and it reveals a pattern I found in nearly every person who remains financially stuck year after year. Most people make every decision based on their present circumstances instead of their definite purpose. They look at the number in their account today, and that number becomes the ceiling of what they believe is possible. If the number is small, they live small, they avoid investing in themselves, they decline every opportunity that carries risk. They repeat the phrase, "I cannot afford it," so frequently that it becomes a permanent fixture of their thinking, and that fixture keeps them precisely where they are. The people I studied who built fortunes did the opposite. They made decisions based on where they had decided to go, not where they currently stood. They invested in knowledge when it seemed premature. They associated with people who thought far larger than they did, even when the comparison made them uncomfortable. They acted in many small daily decisions as the person their definite purpose required them to become, not the person their bank balance said they currently were. Let me give you a plain example. Two people in identical situations each have a modest amount remaining at the end of the month. One sets it aside passively, the other invests it in acquiring a specific piece of specialized knowledge. Within a year, the first person's savings remain unchanged. The second person's new knowledge has opened an income stream that grows month after month. Within 5 years, their lives bear no resemblance to one another. The starting point was the same. The difference was one decision, and that decision was the product of a different way of thinking. Begin making your choices today from the perspective of the person you have decided to become, not the person your current circumstances describe. This is not reckless dreaming. This is the disciplined application of faith to daily life, and it is the mechanism behind every fortune I have ever studied. Now I must address something that people resist hearing, but I would be dishonest if I did not say it plainly. There is no right moment to begin. I have heard every variation of this excuse during my years of study, and I have watched every variation produce the same result, inaction that compounds into regret. I will begin when conditions improve. I will start when I feel more confident. I will act when I have more information. These are not the words of a careful person. These are the words of a person who will never start at all. The men and women who built the greatest achievements I have observed did not wait for favorable conditions. They created favorable conditions through the force of their decision and the persistence of their action. The moment they committed, truly committed, not merely intended, something remarkable began to happen. Information appeared that they could not have discovered through contemplation alone. People materialized who belonged on their path. Obstacles that looked insurmountable from a distance became workable problems once they were standing inside them. I believe this happens because definite action communicates something to the world, perhaps to what I have called infinite intelligence, that mere intention does not. The world responds to commitment in a way that it simply does not respond to hesitation. Waiting is not prudence. Waiting is fear wearing the mask of responsibility. And the cost of that disguised fear, the years lost, the momentum squandered, the confidence slowly drained, is the highest price most people ever pay. And they pay it so gradually that they do not notice until it is too late. I want you to think about something. Every day you postpone action, two things happen. First, the opportunity in front of you either changes or disappears because the world does not stand still while you deliberate. Second, the habit of waiting grows stronger. Hesitation, like action, is a habit. And the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. I have met people who spent so many years waiting for the right moment that waiting became their permanent condition. They could no longer act even when they wanted to because the muscle of decision had atrophied from disuse. Do not let yourself become that person. So act today. Write your purpose if you have not. Take the step you have been postponing. Make the single decision that you know in the honest quiet of your mind you have been avoiding. You do not need to see the entire path. You need only to take the next step, and then the next, and then the one after that. Momentum arrives after you move, never before. And once it arrives, it carries you further than you ever imagined possible while you were standing still. And now I come to the final principle. I have saved it for last because I believe it is the foundation upon which all the others rest. Without this, every lesson you have heard today will fade from your mind within days. With it, every lesson becomes permanent. You must train your mind every single day with the same seriousness and regularity you would bring to any discipline that truly mattered to you. I am continually astonished by how many people understand that the body requires daily exercise to remain strong, yet somehow believe the mind can be trained once and left to run on its own. They read a single book, feel a temporary surge of ambition, and expect that feeling to carry them for months or years. It will not. The surge fades. The old habits of thought creep back, and within a short time they are thinking and therefore living exactly as they were before. Your mind is shaped by what it dwells upon most consistently. This is the principle I call autosuggestion. Whatever you repeatedly think, whatever you repeatedly tell yourself, whatever beliefs you reinforce through daily repetition, those become the instructions your subconscious mind follows. It is operating right now, in this very moment, shaping your expectations, guiding your decisions, filtering what you notice and what you ignore. If you do not take deliberate control of this process, it will be controlled for you by worry, by doubt, by the negative thinking of people around you, by the 1,000 small discouragements that fill an ordinary day. But if you seize control, if you spend even a few minutes each morning reading your statement of definite purpose aloud, visualizing its achievement, deliberately replacing every thought of doubt with a thought of faith, you begin to reprogram the very mechanism that produces your results. The practice need not consume hours. 10 minutes of focused, deliberate thought each morning. A reading of your written purpose, spoken aloud so that your own voice carries the instruction to your subconscious mind. A conscious decision to replace fear with faith for that day. A few pages of something that stretches your thinking beyond its present limits. That is sufficient. Not because it is dramatic, but because it is consistent. And I have found that consistency, compounded over time, does not merely change what you know. It changes who you are. It reshapes your identity at the deepest level. And once your identity has shifted, your external world reorganizes itself to match, not through magic, but through the thousands of small decisions and perceptions that flow naturally from a transformed mind. I watched this happen over and over in my years of study. A person would begin with nothing but a definite purpose and the discipline to train their mind daily. Within months, their thinking changed. Within a year, their habits changed. Within a few years, their entire financial reality had changed so dramatically that old acquaintances